When a routine custody weekend collides with a blood-red full moon, two siblings uncover their father's horrifying secret. He's the beast stalking their isolated home. I never used to believe the stories about things that prowl beneath a full moon. Monsters were bedtime rumours, and our dad, imperfect, yes, but gentle, handled nightmares with a hug and a goofy joke. That was before the night the moon peaked fat and luminous over the cypress trees, before every goodnight kiss twisted into a howl. Dad's house sat alone at the end of Forest Creek Road, all cedar shingles and creaking porches. Mom had dropped Mason and me, Ava, off for our court-ordered weekend, her taillights shrinking into dusk. Dad greeted us at the door, eyes shadowed, smile brittle. He'd lost weight since last month. New stubble peppered his jaw. "Rough week, kiddo," he muttered when I hugged him. His skin felt feverish. Mason, 13 and forever nose deep in horror comics, shot me a raised eyebrow. "Something's off," it said. We microwaved burritos and watched cartoons until bedtime. Dad excused himself early, headache, he claimed, and the house quieted, except for the grandfather clock grinding toward midnight. I woke to the thump of footsteps above my room, Dad's bedroom. Boards groaned, then a dull thud rattled a picture frame on my wall. Mason pushed my door open, flashlight shaking in his grip. "You hearing this?" he whispered. Another crash, like furniture hurled against a wall, answered. Then a sound I can only describe as bones bending the wrong way, wet and deliberate. My stomach turned cold. "Dad?" Mason called up the stairwell. There came a guttural snarl, deep, animal, impossible to belong to our father. Mason grabbed my wrist, yanking me toward his room. We huddled beside his window that overlooked the backyard. Leaves trembled under a restless breeze. Then Dad, shirt shredded, back arched, limbs contorting, stumbled outside. We watched in paralyzed silence as his spine rippled beneath his skin, vertebrae popping like knuckles. Coarse black hair sprouted across his arms. His jaw elongated, teeth glimmered. "No," Mason whispered. It wasn't denial, it was recognition. My brother reads these metamorphoses in comic panel detail, but seeing it bleed into real life cracked us both. Fully changed Dad, whatever Dad had become, lifted his snout and sniffed. A lone raccoon scuttled along the fence. He pounced, jaws closing with a sickening crunch. The raccoon's squeal sliced the night, and I couldn't hold back a scream. The creature's head snapped toward our window. Claws raked the siding as the werewolf bounded for us. Mason slammed the window sash, yanking curtains across. We bolted, hearts battering our ribs. On the first floor, we overturned furniture to slow him. Bookshelf, coffee table, anything we could shove. The front door was only 10 feet away when the creature burst through the stairwell banister, in a rain of splinters, its eyes, still our father's brown, yet feral, locked onto us. Mason hurled Mum's old iron candle snuffer, and the clang stunned it long enough for me to drive a lamp into its snout. As it roared, Mason grabbed Dad's dropped cell phone and hit the button for his truck keys. Outside, the pickup's headlights flared. We sprinted, slammed the door behind us, and tumbled into the cab. I reversed out of the drive, gravel spraying, while the beast slammed its bulk against the bumper. Mason kicked his door into its face, buying a second. Then we were tearing down Forest Creek Road toward Mrs. Langstrom's farmhouse. Mrs. Langstrom, widowed and kind, answered in curlers and a floral robe. Mason's babble about Dad turning into a monster made no sense to her until the werewolf emerged from the tree line, silhouetted by the moon. 7 feet of muscle, breath fogging in the cold. She slammed the door, but kept us behind her. "Basement, now," she ordered. We bolted downstairs while she retrieved her late husband's shotgun. Above, wood shattered and the gun thundered. Silence. Then claws scraped across the kitchen tiles. Mason and I shoved a china hutch against the basement door. Through the dim light, I spotted something on the floor. A silver candle holder, tarnished but unmistakably real. When the beast rammed the door, its paw slipped through a crack and brushed the silver. Instantly, skin hissed, fur singed, and it recoiled with a howl of pure agony. Silver, Mason breathed. It really works. We couldn't barricade forever. The nearest town, Maple Bend, was 3 miles north, its pawn shop habitually open late for hunters needing ammo. Hunters meant silver jewelry, maybe weapons. I remembered the old service tunnel connecting Langstrom's root cellar to the storm drains. Her late husband once used it to smuggle moonshine during college pranks. If we crawled through, we could surface by the creek and follow the road unseen. We whispered our plan to Mrs. Langstrom. She stuffed pockets with silver cutlery and handed me a tarnished letter opener. Mason grabbed the candle holder that had burned the creature. Together we ducked into the tunnel while the werewolf prowled the kitchen above, snorting, confused by our sudden disappearance. The tunnel reeked of damp earth and rusty water. Every scrape behind us sounded like claws. At one point, Mason's jacket snagged and he hissed. His voice echoed like another presence. We emerged by a drainage ditch under the moon, sprinted across fields, and reached the glow of Maple Bend's single streetlight. The pawn shop's neon sign, gold and guns, flickered red. Its owner, a grizzled vet named Hoyt, was just closing when we skidded to the door, breathless, wild-eyed. One look at our terror and muddy clothes made him yank us inside. "Lock it," he barked. I flipped deadbolts while Mason shouted the short version, "Monster, Silver, our dad." Hoyt didn't doubt us. Maybe he'd seen war too closely to dismiss anything. He handed Mason a display revolver loaded with silver-tipped rounds kept for eccentric collectors. I ransacked glass cases until my fingers closed around a curved silver dagger, ornamented but solid. Then the front windows exploded inward. Shards cascaded like deadly rain. Hoyt fired. The silver bullets sparked off the werewolf's hide, each hit raging it further but slowing it. We retreated behind racks of antique jewelry. The beast lunged, knocking over display cabinets. Pearls and watches scattered across the floor like spilled teeth. "Over here!" Mason shouted, brandishing the candle holder. The creature swiped. He ducked and smashed silver into its forearm. Flesh sizzled, the smell of burning hair curling my nostrils. I waited, dagger poised, heartbeat avalanche loud in my ears. When the werewolf turned toward Mason, I leaped, plunging the blade beneath its ribcage where I hoped a heart still beat. Hot blood, strangely human, splattered my hands. The creature howled, thrashing, but the silver held fast, smoke coiling from the wound. It dropped to its knees. Dawn's first lavender fingers crept across the horizon. Within minutes the beast convulsed, shrinking, fur sloughing away, until Dad knelt naked on the pawnshop floor, dagger protruding from his side. Police sirens wailed down Main Street. Mason and I sobbed while Dad, bleeding, shivering, looked at us with shattered recognition. "What did I do?" he whispered. Mrs. Langstrom, bruised but alive from the basement crawl space she'd used to escape, recounted everything to the officers. They checked silver burns on our father's arms, eyes widening at evidence that defied reports. An ambulance ferried him away. We rode in the squad car behind, numb, drained, watching orange sunbeams chase night from the pine trunks. In the ambulance, Dad turned, tears streaking grime on his cheeks. "I'm so sorry, kids. So sorry, Margaret." He used our neighbor's first name with gentle reverence, as though grateful she'd kept us breathing. I wanted to forgive him. He hadn't asked for the curse. but my voice caught on the image of his claws raking the siding, jaws clamped around that raccoon. I managed a nod. At County General, deputies cuffed his wrist to the gurney while nurses stitched the silver wound. The sheriff muttered about psychiatric evaluation. Mason and I sat with styrofoam cocoa in the hallway, the colour of dried blood. A commotion erupted from Dad's room. We dashed just in time to see him seize a surgical tray, rip free the silver dagger, and, with a sob that sounded like gratitude and despair braided together, drive it into his own jugular. Red mist blossomed against white sheets. Nurses screamed. Deputies wrestled him, too late. His eyes locked on us, soft brown, wholly our dad's, before glazing. The pulse in his neck slowed, then stilled. It's been 6 months. Mason won't read werewolf comics anymore. He draws landscapes instead, places where the moon is only a sliver. I dream of silver-burning flesh and wake-tasting iron. Mum enrolled us in therapy. Neither of us speaks about the night out loud, but sometimes when clouds pass over a bright moon, Mason squeezes my hand, and I know he feels the same electric terror. Dad's headstone sits beneath an evergreen near Forest Creek, engraved with a single line he wrote in an old journal we found later, "Protect, even from myself." We leave silver flowers there, necklaces from the pawn shop Hoyt gave us after he retired the day following the siege. The town invented rumours, wild dog attack, psychotic break, ritual gone wrong. Only Mason, Mrs. Langstrom, Hoyt, and I know the truth in its entirety. Monsters exist. Sometimes they love you, tuck you into bed, and pray to hurt no one. Sometimes, when dawn refuses to come fast enough, those monsters choose to die human rather than live as the darkness inside them. And every full moon, I lock my window, not because I think Dad will return. Death ended his torment. But because I've learned the night holds other fathers, other curses, and not every monster will love its children enough to use silver on itself.